Hi, hello. My name is Jamie Hansen. I'm the Executive Director for Swipe Out Hunger. Thank you for spending some time with us. We are over the moon, super excited, beyond ourselves to share some of the campus leader survey that we've collected and the dashboard we've created. So again, let's just give folks one more second to get in here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Get your audio going. We are recording this session, so thank you for being a part of that. We also believe in a live chat, so pop off in the chat, tell me some things, meet a friend, or swipe out hunger. That's what we love to do around here. Well, let me launch in. We are still climbing in numbers, but thank you again, everybody, for being here. We appreciate your time and, of course, your passion for our shared mission of ending student hunger. So pop off in the chat, let us know who's here. We're going to share our screen and have some data that we're going to go through, a little bit of information that we've collected from our campus leader survey this past fall, as well as some dashboard that we've been building. So we're going to get to that here in just a moment. Thank you to Jasmine Lopez, our communications coordinator. She's going to be monitoring the chat and making sure that we grab any questions you may have as we go along, as well as the formal Q&A, so feel free to use either or. And of course, she's going to be sharing her screen. So she's going to be doing all the things. Let us know if we miss anything. Please feel free to repeat yourself. We want to make sure that we get to folks. So thank you, Jasmine, for doing the chat, text, sharing screen, all of the things. We are going to review, as I mentioned, some of the highlights from our campus leader, and then we're going to go into a panel. We have a couple of folks here today from Atlanta. We're very excited, Oglethorpe, whoop, whoop, to share some on the grounds, what they're seeing in their community and on their campus. So hopefully we'll have some really great questions for them. We love to hear all of that. I'd like to talk a little bit about the background, if you don't mind, of the survey. We have conducted quite a few surveys over the course in the history of Swipe Out Hunger. And we started the Campus Leader Survey after we acquired the College and University Food Bank Alliance. That was in November of 2021. So when we launched our first Campus Leader Survey that fall, 2021, we knew that we were going to be learning new information. How can we better support pantries? How can we better support basic needs hubs on higher education campuses in a sphere that was brand new to us as an organization? And we thought, silly us, that we would have a whole year to absorb that information and start building all of our assets and our content to make sure that we could support those folks as best as possible. But it turns out they were like, no rest for the weary. So we were tripling our network during that time. So we have about 750 campuses in our network now, which means that our needs are very broad across the anti-hunger programming space. So thanks y'all for keeping us on our toes. I know many of you were on the call today. We appreciate all of your insights. And of course, we appreciate your time and attention to building the cause and the momentum nationwide. So the survey, again, was developed, analyzed, and the white paper that accompanies it, it was created with the help of Christine Nguyen. She's a PhD student at UCLA, so happy graduation, Christine, it's your time. And she's been working with our team for both the 2021 survey as well as the 2023 survey that we're going to share with you all today. So thank you, Christine. We appreciate all of your time and expertise on our projects. We're also going to be sharing our dashboard. So these links will be shared in the chat and via email after this conversation. So feel free to relax, absorb information. We have an email coming out to you all again that will have the slides and the dashboard links and all of the great stuff there. So we want you to be able to take that and run. And that was completed because of the hard work of Tyler Portis. So thank you, Tyler, for helping us visualize our data and make it searchable. All right. Let's get this party started, shall we? I've taken up so much time in the intro already. I am super excited to introduce you to Sydney Monaghan, our Director of Programs. Sydney has been with the organization for just over a year. We had our swipe anniversary just a week or two ago. Thanks, Sydney, for being with us. So this is a pretty critical position, and Sydney will agree, helps support our 750 plus strong partner network across the country and Canada. And Sydney, your background is really in line with Swipe Out Hunger's mission. You've spent a significant amount of time not only coordinating community food pantries in Chicago's under-resourced communities, but also establishing the University Food Pantry at Chicago State University. So when you came here, you already brought a breadth of knowledge with you. So I'm excited to hand it over to you, Sydney. I'll pause and have you introduce all of the amazing highlights that your team has put together.
Thank you so much, Jamie. I am super excited to share all of the campus survey data insights. And it's been my pleasure being here. As Jamie mentioned, I've been here a little over a year, and it has been an exciting ball of joy since I got here. But without further ado, I would love to jump in so that we can share some of our findings. I want to start by thanking everyone for participating in the Campus Leader Survey. 335 of you all took the time out of your busy, what I know is super busy day, and completed the Campus Leader Survey. 335 out of the 705 campus partners at the time took the survey, and so we're super excited about that. We have here is a map of where those participants came from throughout the country. And so as you can see, it's stretched as wide as the California coast, all the way over to the eastern coastline. So we're super excited about that. Thank you all for participating. And if you see a few states that did not have any representation, please let us know so that we can make sure that we connect with them. Like Wyoming, we see you. We will come and connect with you soon. But this was a really great diverse population of people, represent a diverse population of students. And so we're just happy to have the data. Thank you. Of the 335, I wanted to go a little bit into the participant demographics. We made sure, we were very intentional about making sure that we got a good representation of our students served and the schools in our network. So about 70% of the schools that participated in the Campus Leader Survey were public, and 30% were private. 2% of that was HBCU, and 24% were MSI, minority serving institutions. This was extremely important to us because we wanted it to be clear and equitable on the information that we were gathering. So minority serving institutions represent a large demographic of institutions across the country, and we wanted to make sure we got their unique experience and perspective on these findings. So we're very excited about that, and we want to make sure that we keep increasing the representation of HBCUs and as well as MSIs. And as we jump into the food justice programs that are offered by those 335 partners, there was a large range of programs. So everything from food pantries to community gardens to free food alert systems. And I want to just pause here because I want to show that what this shows us is that of the 335 participants that responded, it shows the resourcefulness of them. There is a need that is growing on their campuses, and they are doing everything that they can with the resources they have to answer that need. And so they are coming up with the most innovative and creative food justice programs. And this was just a snap of those programs. 86% of our network house food pantries, and then followed by emergency food scholarships. But we are just proud to say that our campus partners are rising to the occasion to be as resourceful as possible when it comes to answering the need of the students on their campus. Thank you. And as we talk about how resourceful our campus partners are, we talk about the need that is increasing on their campus. Most of our partners were able to adequately report how many students that they're serving for the year. Altogether, about 600,000 people were served by our pantries. That is substantially more than what was reported the year before. And what that tells us is that the need is growing on the campus. And so we are, again, just very proud of the pantries of our partners for doing the work and being as resourceful as they can to serve this need that is on the campus.
Sydney, I agree. And on the next slide, you've got a really great example, I think, but you're starting to see a little bit of that disconnect that you're describing. Number of students served, number of students on campus, and of course, then like what could need look like on that campus. So I would love to hear a little bit about your example, and then I think I have some additional thoughts to share.
Absolutely. This is a really great example. We met with a couple of schools in Pennsylvania, and one school in particular. They have a total enrollment of 33,000 students. So fall of 2022, they had an enrollment of 33,000 students. Of those 33,000, 31% of those students were awarded Pell grants. So they were low income enough to be qualified for Pell grants. Now, that same school we met with recently, and they shared with us that not only are they unable to become a food bank partner, they are also relying heavily on donations from community organizations, from food drives on the campus. And with everything that they are working to do, they are only able to afford to feed about 300 students a week. I want to say it again, 33,000 students on the campus, 31% of them are low income enough to receive Pell grants. And the food pantry on their campus is only able to feed 300 of them based on the donations that they receive from good people wanting to do good work. The food bank has not allowed them to become an official partner to buy in bulk food to feed their campus. And so most times they run out long before they're able to help those who are in need. And this is unfortunately, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
I think this is something that a lot of folks, it's hard to tease apart here. Like, what does need actually look like? And we oftentimes use income eligibility and Pell grants to help indicate what the volume or the level of need could look like on that campus, knowing that there may be other resources or there may be other like demographic information that influence that category of need. But I think this is really important because when we look at similarly sized schools, depending on their infrastructure, they have a higher volume of students accessing their services. And so even when you go over to the next slide, right, and we start talking about funding, Sydney, this is what you're touching on, is like what resources exist in the community, like partnership with the food bank that could allow people for these schools to serve more individuals. Sorry, Jasmine, do you mind moving to the funding slide? That category, Sydney, that you're touching on, donations, that's huge. And we know one of the strongest relationships that a campus pantry can have is in connection with their local food bank. So if there's free or low cost food that they're able to secure, that could really increase their infrastructure. You had more comments on this slide, and I just got really excited about what you were saying.
No, I appreciate it. I do want to make a small announcement that we do know that the chat is disabled. And so we are going to rely heavily on the question and answer feature of our webinar. We do apologize about that. Thank you for so many of you all bringing it to our attention, but the question and answer is where we will be able to communicate with you all. But thank you. Segueing back. I think that what you are going further on, Jamie, on how we are relying heavily on donations and community organizations when we have food banks and when we have food rescue programs and we have opportunities to be more structured in the way that we are answering the call on our campus is something that we can't ignore. 88% of our network partners or those that responded said that they are relying on donations to fund their food justice programs. That is an unreliable source. We love that people are donating.
Variable. It's not consistent, right?
It's inconsistent, and we love that people are donating. We love that we are trying our best to make it work, and we love that our network partners are making it work. But the reality is that donations are not it's not a sustainable source of funding for our food justice programs.
I appreciate that. I think there's a lot of like stereotypes about how different pantries function, and that's certainly one of them. So relying on the generosity of like, can a food drive that different departments will do. I've heard a lot of universities having food drive competitions between their departments to see who can get the most food. That's an incredible source of donations and certainly creates a lot of variety on the shelves of pantries. And oftentimes, what folks are struggling with is that consistent food representation. How do I have enough food and how do I have the right kinds of food to make sure everybody has access and they have, I guess, the dietary, cultural, and traditional needs fulfilled within their food.
And I'm so happy that you touched on that, because I think that that is something that we also are not mentioning when it comes to donations, that then those who are accessing the food pantries or the food justice programs are at the mercy, I don't want to use a different word, I'm sorry, but at the mercy of whatever donations come in. And so if you have certain dietary restrictions, or if you have certain barriers where you're unable to cook, or you don't have a microwave, or you don't have, something to refrigerate, and the donations need to be refrigerated, then that's one more week that you were unable to feed yourself or your family that week.
And Sydney, I have never been accused of not being dramatic, so I will belabor this point, but we are a solution-oriented organization. And so in the next slide, we talk a little bit about one of the solutions Swipe Out Hunger works on, and that is the hunger-free campus legislation. So I'm super excited in the next slide to show you where not only has it been passed, but it's been introduced. And this is another area in the last 2 years that has just grown extremely like widely, quickly, fastly, all of the adjectives. This is a lot for our advocacy team to keep up with. But the reason why Hunger Free Campus and related legislation is so important to the funding conversation for campuses is that it oftentimes system-sized, you know the word I'm trying to say here. It creates funding that is stable year over year. It's woven into the state's budget and it's provided to the campus in a higher volume. We're talking $60,000 to $90,000 potentially, rather than smaller grants, which create kind of a piecemeal and scarcity mindset at the campus level. So Hunger Free Campus and again, basic needs legislation and other related legislation in these states is really critical for the campuses to get a little bit more stability in their funding so that they can have more food or the right kinds of food. They can have staff to provide additional referrals and intake and processing. It could be SNAP outreach. There's so many different ways that campuses can support students, and this funding is key to that.
Thank you for that. I do want to touch a little bit on that, because I remember us talking, and we've been talking to the advocacy department and about how our partners can get involved with this. And so what we know is that our largest, most powerful stakeholder is our students. And so what we are asking is that whenever there's an opportunity for you as our network partners to get your students involved, please get them involved, because our legislators are listening to the newest voting block that they have. And so we are hoping that we can be as loud and as powerful as we need to be, so that they know that this is something that we are absolutely serious about, and that this is not something that's going to go away, as it hasn't gone away. 40 years ago, it was almost the norm for students to go through college on ramen noodles. That's not the norm anymore, and it's not something that we are romanticizing. And so we're extremely passionate about making sure that our partners, our students, and our stakeholders feel empowered to use their voice to let the elected officials know that this is something that is required.
How that translates to impact, Sydney, thank you, is like these students, these campus admin, these campus staff, they have been advocating for change in the tune of roughly $113 million. So the states that you're looking at on your screen, this is a high level impact. And again, it creates that year over year sustainability. And in comparison, Swipe Out Hunger grant making, we provided $420,000 this last year in swipe grants. And year over year, that's not guaranteed to the campuses like legislation may be. So both are incredibly impactful and beneficial, but we know that year over year and in the long term, the student voices to advocate on Hunger Free Campus legislation is amazing. Well, Sydney, we only have about 1 or 2 more minutes before our panelists. Do you mind talking a little bit about the challenges and the wins recently, knowing that folks will get these slides here tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely not. I love to talk about the challenges that are faced by our campuses, because what I do know is that our campus partners are doing amazing work, and sometimes they are making miracles happen. And so sometimes we forget that they are still facing challenges. And we think that, hey, they're feeding 500, 600, 1,000 students. They're making it happen. They're good. And the reality is that they're not. They're not good. They are, just because you are making it happen doesn't mean that you are making it happen in the easiest way or, a sustainable way. And some of the leading challenge that our campus partners faced was funding, as we spoke on it. If you're relying heavily on donations from different departments or, food drives or community organizations, you are not doing sustainable work. So funding was the largest challenge. And then, of course, donation, which to me goes back to funding. In order to procure the food, the inventory was a problem for them. So those are some of the biggest challenges. We have a few more, some great testimony, as you'll see in our paper once we email it out. Great testimony of some challenges that they face. And if we go to the next slide, we can talk about a few of the wins, because they are amazing people. They have also talked about some of the great wins that they have achieved this year. And so the leading one was the expansion and growth. We've heard from so many of them that they went from like this little bitty closet that the campus thought that'd be enough, you can have a closet, to now they have smart lockers for students who are on campus long after classes are over, or they have expanded so far into a bigger space, and they have 2-3 refrigerators, and they've just been able to meet the need a little bit more. The second leading win was community support. So being able to get the support of the community around them has been a major win for so many of them. But I don't want to talk about the wins so much so that we don't leave any room for our panelists. I do want to take this time to go to the next slide and introduce our panelists so that we can have a little bit of their perspective and just be able to talk to them and some questions for them. Let's start with Natasha Bird and Finn Grindle. Natasha and Finn are both coming from Oglethorpe University. I know that Annette joined us in the audience and we were having some technical difficulties, but we love Annette and all the work that she does. But for right now, we want to welcome Natasha and Finn so that we can then ask a few questions and get a little bit of their perspective.
And do you want to start? You want me to start?
Hi, Natasha, let's start with you. I would love for you to give a little bit of an introduction and then go from there. Oh, Annette is here. Annette.
I was like,
Annette's here, guys. Never mind.
Yes,
Well,
I jumped on.
Thank you. We love to have you. We're gonna start with Natasha, then we'll go to Finn, and then we'll go over to Annette. If you can do a brief introduction with who you are, your role, your pronouns, and then just the way that you see food hunger or anti-hunger programming and food insecurity on your campus.
hi, everyone. My name is Natasha Bird. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Associate Director of Student Wellness here at Oglethorpe University. It's a smaller private institution of about 1,400 plus students. And we have longer answers that we'll give, but for me, at the end of the day, this is retention work. This keeps our students on campus and continuing to thrive. And so as we think about different stakeholders, that kind of gets to the brunt, I think, for some of the folks that might be sitting at the executive suites.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Okay, so hi, I'm Finn Grindle. I am a junior at Oglethorpe University. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the kind of like student lead manager and president of PD's Pantry that we have on there. So like Natasha said, we are a very small school, under 2,000 students, so that has its benefits and its downfalls, but we'll definitely get to that later. But yeah, I think for PD's Pantry specifically, and for like being a resource on campus in fighting food insecurity, I think it all boils down to school and college in general is already something that's pretty stressful and brings its own like complications to the table. And so having to kind of figure out how you can stretch like what food you do have for the week or for multiple weeks shouldn't really be something that should be an added thing that you have to think about as a student. So yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Annette DeTalvo. I use she, her pronouns. My role is in Temple University, located in Philadelphia. I'm the Senior Program Manager for Basic Needs Support. And I think it's always just deeply resonated with me that doing this anti-hunger work on campus is really giving students the tools and the necessary resources to persist to graduation. And we know that research says getting a college degree has really positive outcomes on career and income longer term. So I think it's really resonated with me that our anti-hunger work is really a tool for economic mobility and as well as community, and it's very holistic, but I guess that piece of, just giving people the tools to have that kind of economic mobility stands out to me.
That's huge. Of course, Annette, you're talking about social determinants of health. We should have known. Thank you. I kind of open to any of you, but Natasha, I know that this is something you and I have talked about because your pantry is newer to your community. I'm interested if you've seen any trends. There was a lot pre-COVID, height of COVID, and today of need fluctuation based on like external factors. Do you have any stories or case studies that you could share with us that reflect that trend?
Yeah, and so I call the now times peri-pandemic as I come from a disability justice framework. And so I want to be mindful of folks that have chronic illnesses, autoimmune diseases that are still hunkering down, masking, and doing some of the COVID conscious work. I started here at Oglethorpe in 2018, so I had about a year and a half before the pandemic. So some case studying, I think that I observed at that time was a lot of it was event based, right? So you would provide food at events that students kind of knew to do that, and it would gather folks to the event. You increase your numbers, but also it was providing some levels of sustenance and snacks and food. There were a couple of programs similar to what Sydney talked about, where the library would give out ramen at the end of the semester, kind of during final season, or you maybe have your tabling happening during that one particular time, or faculty and staff just having snacks in their office. So as people came in, they would offer things to students as they asked. And then we hit the pandemic. We have twin and triple pandemics as we really are starting to see, hey, not only is there the pandemic, we have racial unrest happening and really confronting that particular form of harm and discrimination. We are seeing that as we send students home, they have to have access to internet, that the considerations around moving back home, if they had to leave and get a plane ticket, or figure out how to pack all their stuff up, all those things around financial security and how important that was, bore out for us a survey that we found that 30% of our students in fall of 2020, or at least 30% of the participants that answered the survey, noted that they were food insecure to some degree. And I think that catalyzed with a grant, smaller grant, around $1,000 for the food pantry, really bore out that in 2021, our SGA was able to form a committee. And then in the fall of 2021, we came into existence. And so we've been working hard ever since then to think of creative programs. We are so proud of the partnership that we have with Swipe Out Hunger, because you all make it so much easier to do this work and not have to work from scratch. So if I can say thank you for the work that you all are doing, truly appreciate it. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
Natasha, no worry, we'll bump your pay up for that comment. I do have to say that you touched on something that a lot of folks ask me about is not often do people realize that private universities and colleges also struggle with food insecurity at high rates, and that can be often a disconnect. So thank you for pointing that out. 30% is a substantial amount. Finn, did you want to attach more information to Natasha's response?
I think Natasha covered a lot of it. I wasn't a student at Oglethorpe University like during COVID or pre-COVID. So we kind of determined like beforehand that that's like her domain. Like I've heard kind of like the the data and information and things that was gotten during that time and like talking to past presidents. But it's definitely like, I understand that when the pantry was being kind of like brought up and created, that was a very different time than the time that I'm helping to run the pantry. So I guess, but yeah.
What are you seeing today, Finn? What does it look like today as far as need or access or even creative outreach measures to make sure folks know that y'all are there?
Outreach and kind of making sure people know that we're there, especially in such a like small university that we are, is definitely an ongoing struggle. Canva is great. We love Canva, making posters, flyers, things like that. It is fantastic. So that's kind of been a recurring thing that we go back to. We've been using social media more, so try and get back into that and be like, hey guys, like Ramadan's coming up, we're gonna be having a table set up outside of the pantry. So if any of you students who are following us on Instagram, or if you have any friends who celebrate Ramadan, just know that this resource is here. We've talked to campus safety, making sure that the doors are being propped open, things like that. But we are in a kind of location on campus that's not ideal. We've worked with it. We are kind of like in a closet in like the very like far side of the TLCC, or like commons area on campus. So kind of telling people like, oh yeah, to get to us, you have to go through like these 3 doors, and you have to like, sometimes they're locked, but sometimes they're not. And so just accessibility is definitely a huge thing. And we've come a long way, even in just this year. We've also implemented like locker pickups, because outside of the pantry is a whole wall where there are typically commuter lockers that they can use, but the pantry has like 4 or 6 that we've kind of reserved. And so added to the pickup option, it's like, oh, you don't have to come to the pantry and like physically pick up your bag. If someone's in there, you can just, your number will be on a locker and you can just open it up and go. So that's helped a lot with the accessibility and making sure that people actually have the opportunity to fully utilize this as a resource. So yeah.
I love that. Nobody needs to choose your own adventure when they're just trying to seek some basic needs and basic rights.
And I'll add
Absolutely
just
not.
that the smart, like you're talking about the smart lockers, being able to realize that there are that those options are wonderful, but for smaller institutions that may not have the exact funds, that there are ways that you can manage to do some things similarly, but still kind of protect your budget or do what you need to do in the financial.
I love that. Yeah, the creativity of it. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, Finn. Annette, same question to you. Like, you stepped in, I think you said about 1.5 years ago now with Temple's Pantry. So you've seen quite a bit of evolution as well. And you have some exciting things on the horizon. Do you mind sharing what it looks like to access food at Temple University?
Absolutely. Yeah. So as you said, I stepped into this role about 1.5 years ago. I actually did my undergrad here at Temple. So as an undergrad, I was involved with the program. So I've been in this capacity for about 1.5 years, but involved with the program for a little bit closer to 3 years. The resources that we offer at Temple, we have a client choice pantry on our main campus. So our university is a little bit larger. We're in a urban setting. So we have some regional campuses as well. So we're really proud to offer our client choice pantry on our main campus within our student center, as well as distribution sites at host offices at 3 of our regional campuses. So we're really trying to like broaden that reach and meet students where they are, wherever they experience Temple University. Additionally, at main campus, we've had some really exciting growth over the past couple of semesters. So we introduced some SNAP programming, which has been really, really exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, so we meet with students one-on-one to help them determine their eligibility, help them apply for SNAP, and just offer some, case management to really like see the process to the end, just because we know that our students are like the busiest population of people. And that anything extra on your plate can be such a burden. So we're just really happy to be able to offer support and someone at every step of the way to ask a question, even if we don't know. We have some great resources and other nonprofits in Philadelphia that we're able to troubleshoot with. So that community network has been really helpful for us as well. We also, in terms of basic needs programming, we launched our free menstrual product vending machine in the fall of 2023. So that was a really cool project that was able to come to fruition, certainly at the help of Swipe Out Hunger and the partnership that we have with Top, who's recently rebranded, I believe, to Unicorn, in order to like garner some bulk discount for ordering menstrual products. So it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a free menstrual product vending machine. And I think, Finn and Natasha, you were speaking towards accessibility and those lockers, which is so fantastic. And I think that is kind of what was in mind for us when we were opening that vending machine, because it's, discreet, accessible, it's open whenever the student center is open, and students are able to just tap their IDs to receive those products. I feel as though I'm probably missing some stuff, but that's a little overview of what it's like to access some of our basic needs resources on campus.
Incredible. Annette, you hit on a lot. And I think that one of the areas you mentioned that I'd love for you to explain a little bit more for folks on the call who might not know this language is client choice pantry setting. Can you describe what that looks like and feels like for students?
Yeah, absolutely. We are, we're lucky enough to have this staffing and the capacity to be able to offer this service. And looks like the chat is up and running. Cool. To be able to, offer students to be able to come in, and it really just mimics that grocery store market experience. It's a really dignified way to come in and get the food items that are relevant to you, that you're going to use. And just, having that dignity and that autonomy to be able to choose your food. So we try to mimic that grocery store experience. So it's just coming in, picking out what you would like. We operate off of a point system that has really worked for us. So students get allotted a certain amount of points per week and are able to shop as they please. Yeah, I hope that helps.
That does. Thank you so much for clarifying that. I think this world is full of some acronyms and some language. So always looking for clarification. I would love if we could just go around in the next couple of minutes and just touch on a couple of elements. What's next and what's needed to get there in order to, I don't know, what success looks like for your students. So kind of a partial 3-point ask is, what's next for you all? What do you need to get there? And how does that ultimately translate to success for students? And Natasha, I'll start back with you if you don't mind.
Nope, that's perfect. I would say I was appreciative of the slides that kind of showed that we are right along with some other folks where finances and funding is always something that we're thinking about because we want to be projecting ourselves in the future. I think similarly, we were bore out in the pandemic, and so trying to make sure that I mentioned stakeholders, that our institutions, that the folks see us as longstanding and that we're in this fight against hunger and meant to be on this campus for a long time. That sometimes when something is created, you might have a 2-year or 3-year projection out. And I'm like, no, I want us to be at 10, 15. I want you all to see us in this space. And so even to the physical location, making sure that we're mirroring and showing the same level of respect like for the locations that we are offering food in. So I'm really happy about the choice model. We have a prepackaged model, and as Finn was alluding to, we've recently done some updates at least to our space as we are kind of petitioning for an even larger communal space. We have one of the Swipe Out Hunger fridges in that particular space, and yeah, it does lovely things. And we are able to invite folks in after they pick up a bag, and if they want to exchange out food or say, yeah, I'm not going to use this, they can go and actually pick those items up or let us know they might want more or less of a particular item. But I think I answered one part of the question. Back to where we're going, I'm gonna let Finn talk a little bit more about all of the PD's Pantry X programs. Again, they talked a little bit about MSA, but there are so many ways in which Ben has worked on partnerships, that student organizations are our bread and butter, especially because we are a part of the nonprofit industrial complex, and we want to think about the fact that we can't get away from the charity model. And so giving some extension through student organizations that are doing this work on the ground allows for them to do more of the mutual aid and be experts in telling us what their needs are, whether that is food related or basic need related.
Love it. Educate us, Finn. Get us there.
Gotcha. All right. It's a little bit of a list. We have done a lot in the past year, and we have a lot more planned, which is simultaneously absolutely fantastic and a little bit overwhelming at times, but it's a good kind of overwhelming, so it's okay. So one of the things that we have around campus, we have PD's Petite Pantries. You'll learn that alliteration is a great thing for us. There are these little like 3-tiered kind of rolling carts, kind of like the little craft carts that you can get at like Michael's or things like that. And we have them in various spots around campus. So the one in our kind of big student commons area has like little snack items, various things like that, occasional like boxes of pastas, just whatever we kind of want to rotate around in that. And students can just grab it as they walk by, things like that. That's updated like if not every couple days, like every day. And then in about, I think 4 other buildings on campus, like where classes are, we have little carts that are for personal care specifically. So we have like menstrual products. There's some individually packed items like toothbrush, toothpaste, like picks and combs. We've got little travel size of like shampoo, body wash, conditioner, some bar soaps, just a bunch of little things like that that people can just grab and go. And those have been a great hit. We've had to like sometimes replenish those more than once a week. So people have been using that, which is a great thing to see. Another thing that is kind of really prideful that we've done, we've implemented our first free fridge, the fridge, in our library. So in the 24-hour kind of area, we stock that with various things. That has been also a huge hit. It's usually cleared out within a couple of days of us restocking it, so we have to do that a lot, but it's been great. We are working on implementing another fridge and a microwave by where the pantry is specifically. So if people don't have access to a microwave, like there is a microwave in the cafe, but it's only one. And there's a lot of people that go and use that. And sometimes it smells a little weird, but it's okay. So we're going to try to kind of create a little like hub area by the pantry. So it's kind of like you can get your bag, and if you need to do something right here, you can totally do that. We are also doing a lot of other partnerships. We just got through like figuring out the logistics and doing our bulk buys for our PD's Pantry and Locks, which is Learn Our Curl Story on campus. So we're implementing more Black hair care items, specifically trying to be more inclusive that way. And that's just kind of going back into our whole, we really want to make this accessible. It's not just one type of person, one type of student that we're trying to serve. So dietary needs, things like that, huge thing. We are also working on collaborating with the Disabled and Neurodivergent Student of Oglethorpe kind of club to look more into like texture sensitivity, things like that. So how we can help in that regard, help to kind of either educate or just be a resource. So there's a lot of other things, but that's the gist. So yeah.
That's a lot of things, Finn. And you're hitting on something that's super important. It's only helpful to students if they utilize it, right? It's only nutrition if it goes inside your body. And so it's really important that people have that autonomy to choose. Finn, that was incredible. Annette, I also know you have a whole bunch going on. What's next? What does it take to get there? And you've already started down this road of like what it means for student success. Like it's, Natasha said retention, Annette, you said it is ultimately how people move beyond, like it's how they achieve their goals. So please, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. What's next? I mean, it's comically sad the way we all are like dealing with the same things, right? This space issue is so common, I feel like, when I'm talking to other collegiate food pantries. So we are located in a little bit of a limited space. And we are slated to move in the summer. So that is really, really exciting. And that's going to just be able to allow us to scale up our operations to really meet the demand that we're seeing. I think that it's interesting when you're envisioning your space and where it is. Of course, you want it to be as accessible as possible and like in a space that everyone sees and knows. But at the same time, I've received some feedback that students do appreciate like it being in a discrete spot. So, striking that balance is something that I'm always trying to keep in mind, but we are looking forward to moving in the summer and just being able to, scale up our operations in every way. Space is such like can be confining. So like being able to have more refrigerators and being able to distribute more produce. In the fall 2023 semester, we distributed 11,000 pounds of produce, and in a feedback form survey, 20% of our students suggested more produce as a improvement for the pantry. So like we know that we are operating like at our capacity, and we know we just need to continue to scale up. So that is just really exciting. And I think just long term, we really want to adopt this like basic needs hub model where students are able to just come into a space that's just a one-stop shop for things related to, or for, issues or concerns related to basic needs and security. So that's food insecurity, housing insecurity, financial insecurity. We are able to connect students with like our student emergency aid fund. Yes, that is the dream. We're able to connect students with our student emergency aid fund, with SNAP, with our food pantry, and then really building out some more housing secure programming, clothing programming. We are really, really fortunate to have such great strategic partnerships with other campus departments. I think as Natasha and Finn were speaking towards, like, it's really great we're so uniquely like positioned on a college campus where there is that support all around, from student orgs, from other departments. So just being able to partner with our Office of Sustainability to put on like large scale waste reduction efforts where they're collecting clothes at the end of move out and selling them during Temple Thrift. And we're able to provide vouchers to students who, may not be able to afford the clothing that's being sold. It is the free menstrual product vending machine. I can also send more information about that later, like pictures, all that good stuff. And I can drop my email in the chat if anyone wants to reach out with like any specific questions as well. But just really innovatively, like thinking about the ways in which what we're doing is working and integrating that into this basic needs model. We ran the student needs survey through the Hope Center this semester. So I think that it is only going to enlighten us more and inform us more on the work that needs to be done. So I think that, this is kind of just the beginning, and really, the long-term goal is a very holistic basic needs hub that is really just able to support students' basic needs so that, the basic needs insecurity is just not undermined, or their student success is not undermined by basic needs insecurity.
Incredible, Annette. I know that the chat and the Q&A is popping off about everything that y'all are saying. So get ready for the slew of questions because you got everybody's brains and hearts a moving. So I'm going to try and grab a couple here because we have about 9 more minutes. And if you feel comfortable, thank you, Annette, for sharing your email in the chat so folks can reach out to you if they have more specific questions. That is wonderful and lovely, and I appreciate it. I'm going to open up to whoever would like to respond. I don't want to put anyone in a weird spot, but this is actually from one of our friends over at the Hope Center, a question around how do you feel, seen and heard by your institution? In other words, do you think your institution staff, faculty, admin, everyone is taking food insecurity seriously? So again, this is a touchy one, so I'm going to let you all volunteer yourselves. Everyone's like, I'm not touching that, not with a 10-foot pole. And I get it.
I can jump in. I think as soon as I took myself off mute, I realized your question before had to do with what's needed to get there. And so I think that this question ties into that in a way that I think what's needed to get there is robust infrastructure that is really supporting pantries. So we're not in this scarcity mindset. I mean, our institution is, I think, Temple University, right? Like we are an anchor institution that really values affordability and accessibility to an education. I think it's written into the mission. I think that, you know, higher education at a national scale right now is seeing declining enrollment. Like a lot of people are stretched thin. So I want to like give grace across the board. I think though that I'm willing to bet so many more institutions could be giving their pantries, and mine included, the robust infrastructure, the funding, the attention to get out of the scarcity mindset. And I think, you know, we are so proud to be serving over 300 students a week. Do we have the most culturally diverse, dietary inclusive food on the shelves? No, we're trying to get the food on the shelves that we can. And that is not always the most robust inventory. I think there's so many places that we can go with more staffing, with more space, with more funding. And that I'm sure that that is reflected in some of the, you know, best basic needs hubs across the country. And I don't know if that's the majority. I'll leave it at that.
I would say that it depends, right? I think that a question that we get oftentimes from folks at the board level sometimes is, don't students have a meal plan? And I don't think they mean it in any other way than just trying to kind of be like, or do they not have access to food in some way? And so really having to describe out what other things we offer, the choice and times of meal plans. And so being able to connect with students. We have feedback forms where we're wanting to get their information. We want to do more where we can utilize their voice, right? Nothing about us without us. And so trying to make sure that students are able to share the reasons why they're utilizing these spaces. And then I always go back to stakeholder because I think that that's oftentimes how it's framed to me, trying to think about who our audience is. And so we've had wonderful partnerships, as Annette stated, with a lot of our campus offices, even through HR, right? Most institutions have at least one day or so where you can donate your time or you can take that full 8 hours. And so we've been outreach to in that way. Where folks are like, hey, our whole office wants to come and volunteer with you for the day that we get to volunteer. And so tapping into different types of partnerships, I think has really served us well. Hopefully that gets at some of the question.
Thank you, Natasha. These are rapid fire coming in hot, y'all. There's tons in here. So, excuse me for switching gears. I want to get 2 more in if we can in the next 4 minutes. One is, have any of you faced issues with dining hall hours and accessibility in the wake of the pandemic? And if so, how have you handled this? Thank you, Bella. We love you, Bella. I think some of the things we've heard from campuses is like contracts with dining providers often done every 10 years. And so when there's changes around those contracts, it impacts the services coming from the pantries, the meal swipe drives, the folks delivering the anti-hunger programming. And oftentimes can be a lack of communication or an understanding of what that unintended impact is. Have any of y'all experienced that? Oh, Bella's in the chat. Thank you.
I'm not entirely sure if this is, I don't really know how the dining hall operated at Oglethorpe University, like during the pandemic, or if there was a big shift, like before the pandemic to now. But I will say that this goes back into us being a pretty small campus. A lot of the larger schools, like I've gone over to Georgia Tech and they have like 3 dining halls and there's like a Chick-fil-A and things like that. We have 1 dining hall. That is it. So if that's not open, you just can't go you can't use your like Petro Pass to go and swipe and get your meal, whatever your meal plan is. So there's always that thing where it's like yes, we have the dining hall, and yes, there are meal plans, but what do you do when the dining hall is closed? There's no other options really on campus other than trying to walk over to town Brookhaven and go maybe spend money that you don't have at Publix to get some food. Or what we're trying to do is be maybe a little hole in the wall right now where people can just come up, ring the doorbell and be like, hey, do you have like, can I just grab something real quick? And it's like, yes, please come on in. And the same thing with Ramadan, like the dining hall is not open at the time when students are going to be breaking their fast. So where do you go when you don't have a resource that's provided by the university itself as a whole? You have to go to someplace smaller. So I don't know if that really answered the question, but yeah.
I think it sheds light on the experience for sure. Okay, we have 2 minutes. I wanted to wrap up on a hopeful note, but instead, I'm going to talk about stigma. I have a pretty clear definition of stigma that it oftentimes is not necessarily from the individual out in the community, their perspective, but it's what they experience when they go and ask for help. All of us as human beings have to ask for help from time to time. And how people treat us when we ask for help is what can breed that stigma. I'm wondering if you all have any tips, tricks, or insights on how we mitigate stigma so that people feel comfortable asking for help. Annette, happy to start with you. There you go.
Yeah, I think it's something that, my team it's really like our number one priority to be mindful of the stigma that can be associated with accessing social services. And I love the way that you phrase that. It's not really from the individual. It's really from the experience or the reaction from the folks over at those, various or respective social services. So it's something we're so mindful of. And I think just really striking the balance of being welcoming and remembering guests and remembering shoppers, and also mitigating that with respecting like confidentiality and some people who just want to, come in and out or whatever it may be. So I think at the end of the day, meeting people where they are, being so unassuming, and we're pretty no questions asked. So really just like fostering the sense of community that we have at the pantry is something that I hope is like palpable to anyone who comes in.
I'll give a quick, so from the faculty staff standpoint, you all have a great, Swipe Out Hunger has a great resource about syllabi and how that can be added for faculty. So if you have a Center for Teaching and Learning, or if you can connect with the provost office to figure out when they have their monthly meetings and potentially either tap in or send them some information so that shows up on more faculty members' websites. Same thing with staff, that you probably have some sort of behavioral intervention team. Ours is called PACT, Petro Assessment and Care Team. And so again, we have made connections. I sit on that team. And so the pantry then becomes similar to how they would offer up the counseling center and gets added as a resource. From the student standpoint, Ben was probably going to have even better answers, but we're thinking about how we do a better job of programming around that we teach that through tabling, and again, just offer a lot of information as much as we can around campus. And even in our emails, we have edited a question where it's like, is this for me? Can I use this? I don't want to take this resource away from somebody. And our answer is something like, yeah, no, please. This is available to anyone in need. And then kind of breaking down what hunger looks like at different stages. And then just making sure that students know that they can use it.
I love that. Inundate information everywhere, all around us, all the time. Finn, thank you. Natasha, thank you. Annette, thank you. I don't know if you're following the chat. There's a million more questions. Thank you so much for sharing your email so that folks can connect with one another and learn from all the work that y'all are doing. Incredible job. Thank you to everybody on the call that was able to join. I know we didn't get to everybody's questions, so feel free to connect with us. There's a bunch of links on your screen, and we will be sending out an email tomorrow with more information. I'm dropping my email in the chat as well. Feel free to grab that. Email me if there's anything you'd like to have a deeper conversation about. And if I'm not the right person, I can make sure I get you to the right person. So thank you all so very much. Again, special thanks to Christine and Tyler for working on our dashboard, our paper, our survey, our data, and for all of you for spending the time to provide that information and insight that will help build this movement across the country. So you all are incredible. Appreciate you. Take care and have a wonderful week.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye, y'all. Have a good one.